Good evening. Tonight, we begin with a crisis in the South China Sea, one that's rapidly escalating. Chinese Coast Guard ships have again used water cannons against Philippine vessels near a contested reef. This isn't just a regional spat. The US and Japan are now directly involved. Warships from global powers are converging, raising the risk of a miscalculation that could spark a wider conflict. The latest confrontation happened just days ago, as Philippine boats tried to resupply fishermen near Scarborough Shoal. Video shows massive Chinese vessels blocking smaller Philippine boats, using water cannons to create a wall of spray. This was a physical blockade, intimidation, not just a warning. For the Philippines, it's a terrifying ordeal. For the world, a sign that China is determined to enforce its claims, regardless of international law. Years of rising tensions and military buildup have led to this moment. The Philippines has refused to back down, documenting these encounters and calling on allies for support. The result, a volatile standoff where diplomacy struggles to keep up with aggressive actions at sea. The US and Japan swiftly condemned China's actions, announcing joint naval exercises with the Philippines. This sends a clear message of solidarity, but also raises the stakes. The presence of American and Japanese warships is a red line for China. Beijing responded with a stern warning, accusing the US and Japan of meddling. The stage is set for a potential showdown between the world's greatest military and economic powers. The world is watching, holding its breath. Why does this matter? Look at a map. The South China Sea is the world's economic superhighway. 1/3 of global shipping, over $5 trillion in trade, passes through these waters every year. The goods you use daily likely traveled this route. Conflict here would disrupt global supply chains, raise prices, and impact economies worldwide. Beyond shipping, the sea is rich in oil, gas, and fish, resources vital to regional nations. China's sweeping claims put it in direct conflict with neighbors like Vietnam, Malaysia, and the Philippines. The competition for these resources is a major driver of tension. The sea is also a lifeline for millions of fishermen, now threatened by militarization and aggressive patrols. Their way of life is at risk. For the US, keeping these waters open is a core principle. For China, control is a matter of national security. This is a clash between freedom of the seas and regional dominance. The stakes are global, not just regional. That's why the world is paying attention. At the heart of this standoff is Scarborough Shoal, a small ring of reefs, but a major flashpoint. For the Philippines, it's a traditional fishing ground, well within its exclusive economic zone. For China, it's Huangyan Dao, claimed on historical grounds not recognized by international law. China seized control in 2012, blockading the lagoon and deciding who can enter. The shoal's location makes it a strategic outpost. If militarized, it could let China project power deep into Philippine waters. Every resupply mission and patrol is now a test of will. Scarborough Shoal has become a symbol of the broader conflict: law versus power, rights versus might. The fate of this reef could shape the future of the entire Indo-Pacific. Ordinary people are caught in the middle of a great power competition. For fishermen like Carlos Santos, the sea is life, not politics. For decades, Scarborough Shoal provided shelter and abundant fish, supporting families for generations. That changed in 2012 when China seized control. Carlos and others were blocked, chased away, and sometimes had their catches confiscated. Many stopped going, forced to fish in overfished coastal waters, incomes plummeting. The Philippine Coast Guard now escorts fishing boats, offering some protection, but also triggering confrontations. Fishermen are caught between massive Chinese and Philippine ships, their livelihoods hanging in the balance. Families struggle to survive, communities face economic collapse. These men aren't soldiers, they just want to make a living. Their struggle is a stark reminder: international disputes have real human costs. The sea that once promised a future now brings only danger and uncertainty. The world must not forget them. The South China Sea conflict is a battle between international law and historical claims. The United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, defines territorial waters and exclusive economic zones. In 2016, an international tribunal ruled for the Philippines, invalidating China's sweeping claims. Most of the world accepts this ruling. China, however, insists on its 9-dash line, claiming nearly the entire sea based on centuries-old maps. Beijing rejects the tribunal's decision, demanding one-on-one negotiations and dismissing outside interference. This isn't just about legal texts, it's about power and national pride. By ignoring UNCLOS, China challenges the rules-based order. The US and allies see this as an attempt to rewrite global rules. For smaller states, UNCLOS is their shield. For China, backing down would be a loss of face. These positions are fundamentally incompatible, creating a dangerous deadlock. Law and history are colliding, with global consequences. September 2025 marked a dramatic escalation. The Philippines removed a Chinese barrier at Scarborough Shoal, calling it a violation of their rights. China responded forcefully. Philippine vessels delivering supplies were blasted with water cannons. The Philippines released video evidence, galvanizing international condemnation. The US, Japan, Australia, and the EU demanded China respect international law. The Philippines' strategy of publicizing every incident put Beijing under global scrutiny. This was no longer just harassment, it was a direct, dangerous confrontation. The risk of miscalculation soared. One wrong move could trigger a wider conflict. The region was on high alert for what might come next. The September escalation forced the US and Japan to act. The US-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty now clearly covers attacks on Philippine vessels. In response, the USS Ronald Reagan Carrier Strike Group was sent for joint exercises with the Philippine Navy, a powerful show of force. Japan, citing a free and open Indo-Pacific, dispatched advanced destroyers to join. These joint drills sent a unified message. China's actions are strengthening, not isolating, the alliances against it. China condemned the moves, warning the US and Japan to stay out. Now, heavily armed warships from all sides operate in close quarters. The margin for error is razor thin. The world watches a high-stakes game where one mistake could be catastrophic. The South China Sea crisis is a ticking time bomb for the global economy. Any disruption, blockade, conflict, or even the threat, would send shipping insurance costs soaring. Higher costs mean higher prices for consumers everywhere. Companies would reroute ships, causing delays and shortages worldwide. Energy markets would be hit hard. Oil and gas shipments to Asia could be cut off, sending prices skyrocketing. The economic pain would ripple across the globe, potentially triggering recession. Investment would freeze, stock markets would tumble, and companies with Asian ties would suffer. The stakes: global prosperity versus economic chaos. The world can't afford a conflict here. As of October 2025, the world stands at a crossroads. One path: de-escalation, dialogue, and respect for international law. A future of stability and shared prosperity. The other: continued confrontation, where military might replace rules and the risk of war grows. The danger? A small incident could spiral into a US-China conflict no one wants. The international community's unified response is crucial. Solidarity can deter further aggression, but diplomacy must remain open. It's the only real alternative to war. The world must insist. Disputes are resolved peacefully, not by force. The future of the South China Sea, and perhaps the world, depends on this choice. Will we uphold common rules or let power decide? The hope, wisdom, and restraint will prevail, pulling us back from the brink.